Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back. In this video, we're looking at the MLB slate for Sunday. We have a 12-game slate starting this afternoon, so let's get started. As always, appreciate if you guys hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't already. Let's get started by looking at the totals today. Once again, the Toronto Blue Jays look to be one of the best teams to stack on the slate. They have the highest total right now, 6.4 runs going up against this Baltimore team that is really struggling recently. They can't pitch well. And Jorge Lopez, we always know he's a guy that gives up some home runs. Looking at his numbers so far this season, he has a 5.68 ERA. He's given up 14 bombs. He's an okay strikeout pitcher, but the home runs are troubling. The walks are also somewhat high. And this Toronto Blue Jays team has one of the deepest lineups in all of baseball. So much power in this top five, even the bottom half with Grichuk, Gurriel, Biggio. Like the top eight all have so much pop. And McGuire can also do a little bit of damage. But the Blue Jays have to be my favorite stack of the slate going up against Jorge Lopez. The Astros, they had a comeback win last night going up against a lefty. So this Bregman isn't back yet, but they can still go with Altuve. We know he mashes lefties. You have Gurriel, Correa, and Toro. Toro might be like a great one-off play just because he's only $3,400. And he's been playing very well in place of Bregman. The Reds also against a lefty. They look up pretty appealing. Castellanos been mashing lefties all season and for his career. Suarez has a lot of power against lefties. And then you have Aquino with some pop. Even Stevenson you can throw in there as well. And then the last team to mention for stacking is the Twins. There's some other teams with 5+ totals like the Brewers, but looking at their prices on DraftKings, everybody's above 5,000. Even the catcher's above 5K. The only cheap hitter is like Keston Hura and Jackie Bradley. I don't want to pay 52 for Uris. I don't want to pay 51 for Garcia when I can get like these Blue Jays hitters in there. Like I can get Springer for 41. I can get Teoscar for 48. So I'd rather go to the Blue Jays. I'd rather go to like Castellanos. I'd rather go to on the Twins side like Nelson Cruz against a lefty. He's under $5,000. So those are my top three teams to stack today. You can mix and match with some of these cheap hitters in like the Royals on the Royals side with O'Hearn or Soler, and then on the Rangers side you have Gallo with just a lot of pop. Garcia's been hitting the ball really well this year, and then you even have like Solak and Ibanez. Ibanez not great, but if you needed a cheap hitter, he is a guy that you could play at third base. But that is pretty much the quick rundown for pitching wise. Pretty interesting. You never thought that you'd see an opposing team have a 4+ run total against Garrett Cole, but with the wind blowing out in Fenway, that is what we have here. The Red Sox 4.2 total right now against Garrett Cole. Makes Max Scherzer look like the best pitcher on the slate. I also think you can go cheap with your pitchers if you wanted to pay up for the Blue Jay stack. If you want to play some of these expensive Reds and Twins hitters like Odorizzi is only $6,900, and then you also have Ross Stripling, who is only $6,800. So I think those two make some sense if you wanted to go with some expensive bats today. Because besides Garrett Cole and Scherzer and Cole, they have a 4+ total against him. So I don't know if I want to pay $11,000 for him. Like Scherzer would be the best option, and then like Wheeler going up against his former team, I guess, is appealing, but there's only a couple of aces at the top, so I don't think you're missing too much if you go with two cheap pitchers with Odorizzi and Stripling. Odorizzi's coming off his best start of the season, going 5 innings, 9 strikeouts against the Orioles, no hits as well. He threw 86 pitches. He's missed. He was dealing with some injuries, and so he's hasn't topped like 90 pitches yet. But that's kind of why his price tag is low. But he was 81 a couple starts ago, so even if it goes like high 80s, maybe low 90s in pitches today, I think you should be able to make value at least. Like at this price tag, even if it gets you like 15, 16, that is fine. And then you have Stripling on the other side, who's been very consistent the last couple great starts against the Yankees. Good start against the Miami Marlins, and then he pitched pretty well against the Astros and the Red Sox. Some tough offenses here. Gets a much weaker offense here going up against Baltimore. On the season, he's been good with the strikeouts, and he also is able to go pretty deep into games. We saw him go over 100 pitches against the Yankees. He's gone 6 innings plus in his last 2 starts. So I think he also is a very good option today going up against a weak offense that strikes out a lot. And then in terms of my bats today, at first base, a lot of options here, but I think going cheap at pitcher, I might as well get the best option at the position, and that is Vlad Guerrero Jr. is having an incredible season. He has been amazing from start to finish. Over his past 10 games, he's batting .308 with 4 bombs. At home, he's batting .392 with 16 home runs coming at home in that ballpark, which, because it's not in Canada, they're playing in some other ballpark right now, which is really good for hitting. It's a pretty small ballpark. And Guerrero, 62, is expensive, but he's been well worth that price tag this year. Over at second base, if you're looking to stack the Toronto Blue Jays, you can throw in a couple of hitters here. You have Marcus Semien at 56. He's expensive, but he's been also great at the top of the order. You have Altuve against a lefty. In Scooble, he looks appealing. And then you can go Jonathan India, who will bat leadoff today for the Reds at his price tag. And then if you needed to go with the value play, you could maybe look to like maybe Luis Arraez if he's in the lineup at that price tag. And I don't really see anybody else unless some of these guys happen to bat near the top of the order. Over at third base, we have McMahon as your most expensive option. Lefty-lefty, I'm not that interested at all in that price tag for McMahon. I'd much rather go to like Josh Donaldson against a lefty. I'd rather go to like even go cheaper for maybe take a shot on Wander Franco again. Go Biggio, go Suarez, who is hitting the ball a little bit better. At least he's shown the power recently. He's getting on base, getting some walks, so he's starting to come around. The power numbers are always there against lefties, so I have to consider him. At third base, but the guy that I like the most right now at third base, like Rendon is cheap against a lefty, but he's kind of been struggling this year, not really been able to get it going. But I think you can go with Toro if you wanted to. He's 34 against a lefty. He'll probably bat like 6th or 7th in the lineup. If you're stacking the Astros, he makes some sense because he's been hitting the ball pretty well in place of Bregman. On the season, it's a very small sample. It's only like 10 or 11 or only 9 at-bats, but he does have 5 hits, all singles, but at least he's able to hit the ball pretty decent against lefties so far this year. It's super small sample size, so don't read too much into it, but I don't mind going to him, especially if you're looking to stack up the Astros. I think you could also look to Rendon, even though he's been struggling this year, but only $3,800. That price tag is pretty nice for Rendon. But the Astros have a much higher total, so I'll decide with Toro. Shortstop, it's Bo Bichette as my favorite. Semien would come in second, and then you can go cheap if you wanted to. Those will be the two that I pay up for. Wanted to go cheap, maybe look to like Gleyber Torres, who's been having a down season, but you know he's only $3,200 against a lefty, so I think he could be worth the risk. In the outfield, we're going with two guys that absolutely mash lefties. That's Nelson Cruz. He's 49, so he's not even that expensive when you have guys above 6,000. Cruz against a bad lefty should be around those guys, at least in the mid 5K range. And looking at his price tags, or looking at his stats this year against lefties, nothing has changed. 390 for him, 6 home runs and 91 at-bats, or 91 plate appearances. Gives him a 293 ISO, only a 15% K rate. He looks amazing. And then you also have Castellanos, who we'll get to. But he's also facing off against a lefty. He's having one of his best seasons in terms of just hitting for power and for high average. On the season for lefties, he's batting .348 with 4 bombs. That's good for a 273 ISO, and his career numbers are pretty much on cue for what you expect. 305 against lefties, 45 bombs, and the ISO against lefties is 232. So I'm going Cruz and Castellanos, two guys that should be a lot more expensive against lefties, but they're both in the high 4K range instead of being in like the mid 5K range, so getting some nice value on those guys, and you're still left with $4,250. You can still pay up for a couple of other spots and maybe pay down a catcher. They can get 3 other studs in there. But that is it for the DraftKings side. Let's go over to FanDuel. All right, FanDuel here. Pitching-wise, you have Scherzer at 11-2. He would be the option that I go with if I were paying up. He's only 200 more than Cole and only 200 more than Zach Wheeler, so I'd much rather just pay those extra $200 and get up to Max Scherzer if I was paying up, but I think I can also pay down on FanDuel if I wanted to, and that would be for Stripling. At $8,000, you have Odorizzi at 76. Both guys are in play. I like Stripling just because the matchup is really good for him, and he's shown to have a pretty solid floor and has shown a bit of a ceiling the last couple of starts. Catcher first base, I love Vlad, but almost $5,000 for him is super expensive. You can get to him if you wanted to, but there are a couple of cheap hitters that I like at catcher first base, and that one of them is Luke Voigt, who's only 26. You know he gives you a lot of power. Pretty rare that you find a power hitter like him just being this cheap, especially when he's facing off against a lefty, and we know Voit has a ton of pop. Yankees have about a 5-run total today. If they're able to do some damage, hopefully Voit is able to maybe get a home run, maybe get some RBIs, because that's a really nice price tag. You save $2,200 from Vlad. Maybe Voit hits a home run, and it's kind of a wash. So I'll side with the Voits here. Second base, it is Altuve. He's much more expensive than everybody else, but he would be the top guy. Second guy would be Marcus Semien. And then I'm looking at maybe Biggio, DJ LeMahieu against the lefty. And then if you wanted to go cheap, it would be for Jonathan India for me. Third base, it's Vlad. You can play him at third base if you wanted to. You also have Josh Donaldson at only $3,200. Jonathan India at $3,100. Then you have Rendon is affordable. Suarez also cheap. So a lot of good options at third base. So I think I'll probably side with one of those guys in the 3K range. Shortstop here, we have Bo Bichette, 43, and then you have Marcus Semien, 37. Both guys I like. Semien bats at the top of the order. $600 cheaper. Both are having great seasons, so I don't think you can go wrong with either one. It's just a matter of if you have the extra 600, you can get up to Bichette, or you can just go Semien if you're feeling him. He looks great today. He's been having an incredible season. Average has come down a little bit, but the power is there. The on base is there. He gets on base. Even has a little bit of speed. He hasn't shown much of it this year. But maybe if he needs to steal a base, he could. But the price tag is pretty appealing, so I'll side with him at shortstop. And then in the outfield, going with the couple of guys that I mentioned on the DraftKings side. They are a little bit more expensive. FanDuel priced where they should be. Cruz is the second most expensive guy in the outfield spot. And then you have Castellanos, also pretty expensive at $4,000, but going with Stripling as your pitcher leaves you with still $3,000 left, and you're getting a couple of the best power hitters against lefties with Cruz, Castellanos. You get Voit in there, and you get Semien, part of a Toronto stack if you wanted to do that. So that's it for the video. Thank you for watching. Best of luck today, and I'll see you all next time.